Okay, so today we're talking about female bosses. Now, I do have a monologue about this, but I want to talk about my personal experience with female bosses. So generally, in my life, I've worked for mostly men. To be fair, I haven't had a lot of jobs outside of YouTube because I started my career fairly early, but I worked in sales for a little bit. That was men. Copier sales. Women aren't doing that. And then I worked at a plumbing tech company. It was also owned by a guy. But my experience is more from coaches because for 22 years of my life, I had a lot of coaches. And women are a large percentage of the coaches. And I could say one thing from working with men and women volleyball coaches, I'll say. I would say I had majority women. There's a lot of challenges that came. For one, bosses that are female or coaches that are female are always involved in the office drama. Now, obviously, this is the team drama, but whenever there was like gossip about one girl whoring it up, my coaches would find out it's weird behavior, right? What are you worrying about a kid's sex life, Second thing was that, when I was in college, I played, and she was a lovely lady, to be honest. I played for this woman. I don't want to say her name, although you guys could probably find her if you really wanted to. But I really liked her as a coach. However, when I played for this team, we were really competitive. We were top 20 in all of Division III. At one point, we were like 14th in the country. Really, really competitive team for D3. Take it with a grain of salt. And this coach, whenever we would lose a game, guys, I shit you not, we would sit in the locker room for sometimes up to 3 hours talking about everything that went wrong. And at one point in the season, I counted how many hours we spent in that locker room, and it was damn near a part-time job. The men, when I had male coaches, they would really just focus on what we could improve. The women focused a lot more on the emotions. They would say things like, this is a mental game. And, I played volleyball for 22 years. Yeah, it's somewhat mental, but not really. It's strategy. And male coaches tended to understand that. Like I had one young woman who went to college in, I think, Kentucky. And her coach based all of his decisions on numbers. It was really on stats. And this young woman, she couldn't really take it. It stressed her out too much. Okay, so Doug says, women bosses treat men better. I've never had a bad female boss as a professional, but I've seen women destroy each other. Craig says, I liked the song. Thank you guys on the website. Now we got 7 people on the website chat. If you're curious, you go to Pearl Daily on the website and you join it. You guys are awesome. You guys are the best chat on YouTube, really. Okay, so, we always hear about how bad women have it in the modern day. We have the pay gap. We have women aren't safe. Women are oppressed. And, of course, they always blame these issues on the men. It's always the men's fault. What about the men, though? An example of a place I see this in, even outside of work, is whenever women sleep with the boss, it's always the boss's fault and not the young hot woman. Like for some reason, even in that interaction, it's always the guy. I was even talking to my dad about this the other day, and I'm like, Dad, the women are apex predators. And he's like, no, the boss is in a position of power. And I'm like, really, Dad, you buy this? I love my dad. My dad's the best guy on the planet. But even him, I'm like, Dad, you're falling for this. Gosh. If you look at the mainstream misandrist propaganda, women really can't stand each other. If you ask any woman, your mom, your sister, your female friends, female friends really aren't worth it, but, maybe one or two, they'll tell you that, the person that has done the worst of the things to them in their lives is another woman. And I could tell you a story about this. So I'll tell you guys a story. And maybe, I hope she doesn't go off on TikTok again, but I don't care anymore. God, I don't care anymore. So I had a friend that was like friends with me for 22 years. 22 years. And this woman, this is how women use reputation destruction. I'll tell you what. And I have notes on this. But this woman I was friends with for 22 years, and I started my show. And this woman was a liberal, right? And to put it into context, this is a woman that asked me during George Floyd if I posted a black square. And, I'd always liked her. We'd been close since we were young. So I would always put politics aside, I've always been a dork. I probably talked about it a little bit, but she was just the type you had to be careful what you said around because, she was, one of her friends said like her other friend couldn't see her kid if she didn't get the COVID shot. This is madness, right? But I liked her as a person, so much so I was in this woman's wedding. We were like best friends, besties. And she texts me one day when I'm doing my show and then gets mad at me for stuff I was saying on my show. And essentially what it came down to, she said, say what I want. Don't use words that I don't like on your show or I'm not going to be friends because my future daughter might see it one day. And I refrain from talking about her because, she's gone on TikTok and she just goes off and I'm like, there she goes. Now, anyways, this was really one of my first experiences where I'm like, wow, women really like to control speech because she could have just shut off my show, but 22 years of friendship, I guess. Down the drain. You know what my crime was? It was so crazy. I said, men can leave wives that get super fat. What a time. No, but this was a female friend. 20 years of friendship. And then I just said, okay, I ended it. And that was it, But sometimes she like spurgs on the internet. Whatever. Now, this is just one example, right? But I think we can all think of, women that have backstabbed each other. A common thing that I've heard is women sleeping with each other's boyfriends, sleeping with each other's husbands. It's always another woman, who is the woman? And oh my gosh, women. When I got into this space, women started treating me like a man. And do you know what? Women have made up so much shit about me. Or do you know what they do? They take a small detail and put it completely, they over-exaggerate it to destroy your reputation. These, maybe, I'm not going to get into all of it. I'm not going to get into all of it today. It's always another woman, who's the bad person that makes a bad life decision that wants you to do the same so you can all be miserable together. When one woman's a whore, she has to get everyone to be a whore. It's always another woman. Women make it more difficult for other women in the workplace. Queen bee syndrome is a term for when women finally make it into management and then make life hell for every other woman under her supervision. And I've seen this in friend groups. Whenever there's a female friend group, every 6 months, one of the girls gets tired of the other and tries to kick the girl out of the friend group. But it rotates. Then they get less. They bitch about that girl for 3 months and then they let her back in the friend group. And then it's a different girl's time to get kicked out. There's usually like 3 or 4 that are consistent that maybe are less annoying or for bitchy or I don't know, for whatever reason they don't get kicked out. But this is female friend groups. Now, female dominated industries are full of drama because 80% of workplace bullying is a woman bullying women. Catty behavior is normal working around other women, and women supervisors are stereotyped for being more emotional, less compassionate to female employees, and taking out the frustrations in their personal lives around them. That's why today we're going to talk about female bosses. Many women, 40% say they would rather work for a male boss than a female boss. Is there really a patriarchy when almost half of women would rather work for a man than a woman? So there's an article on LinkedIn, and I was looking at this earlier. I was cracking up. God, it was so funny. Oh, let me turn on my camera switcher. I think we have to ask ourselves, are women sometimes unintentionally keeping women down? I'm not sure if it's the lack of advancement of opportunities, societal norms, built-in expectations, or some sort of professional jealousy or something else. But certainly there are underlying factors to contribute to these statistics and research. According to this Forbes article, authored by Matt Simmons, today women occupy just 4% of CEO at Fortune 500 companies, and fewer than 1 in 5 corporate board seats is held by women. This Daily Beast article with data and a new Gallup poll authored by Lizzie Crocker informs us that 40% of women prefer a male in charge compared to 27% who prefer a female boss. This article says that these numbers don't exactly show a groundswell of women adopting Sheryl Sandberg's lean-in attitude, nor have they budged much over a decade. The article, authored by Olga Kahazan and featured in The Atlantic, reviews a Pew article survey that indicates, in fact, more women said they'd rather work with men than men did. The article goes on to confirm that the dilemma gets worse, not better, with younger generations. We have to do more to support professional women. We have to want to work for them. We often have this discussion about breaking the glass ceiling and resolving pay inequalities as if it's a male-driven phenomenon. But clearly it isn't. From what I can tell, it's very much, or at least equally, a female-driven phenomenon. I pose that until women actually want to work with and for other women, these statistics will not change. Until women stop viewing leadership as mostly a masculine concept, these stats won't change. Unless women match words to deeds and develop supportive workplace relationships and professional women, these stats will not change. Until women report at least equal preference for working with and other women, nothing will change. Why? Because of supply and demand. Women increasingly making up more and more of the professional workplace. We have the dominant voice, and our voice and actions are sending the message that men should be in charge. So how funny is it? Women got together and they said, let's do this on our own. Girl power. And then feminism always eats itself, because the women, they started working for the other women and they thought, well, I don't know about this. Oh, this is pretty bad. Maybe the men had a point, you know. Doug says the average career life of a male CEO is 7 to 8 years. The average career life of a female CEO is 2 to 3 years. Women get to the top and then quit because it's too hard. She listed some reasons women don't like working for other women. 1, get this, professional jealousy. Women being jealous? Never. We're always happy. Especially when other women get promoted fast beyond us or get her work projects noticed more. Okay, so this is essentially a hotter woman comes into the office. So there's a woman that's in the office. She's used to being the hottest woman. And then a younger, hotter, tighter woman comes in and she makes her life a living hell. It's like the 30-year-olds with the 20-year-olds. Limited opportunities. Since we are competing for such limited roles, are we intentionally or unintentionally backbiting and sabotaging one another because there is not enough for all of us? Different standards for different women. Do women have different standards for women and with children and those without them? How about married versus single women? How do we apply different standards? Discomfort working with smart, beautiful women. History shows that men don't take beautiful women seriously. But is that still the case? Or I think that ugly women have a harder time. Or is now more beautiful women a problem? Are women still viewing the workplace as a dating pool and competing for male attention? Women can't even give it up. When a woman is beautiful, are women the ones questioning her competence and intelligence, hence showing her less respect? The marriage and motherhood factors. Do women look negatively on women who are not married and or mothers? Yes, of course. Balancing politeness with assertiveness. If the woman is polite and friendly, do we view her as too polite and too friendly? And when she is assertive and direct, do we view her as temperamental, above herself, or even bitchy? I could go on, but the ultimate and final question here is, how do we overcome gender biases that not only men have, but also women have against women? There you have it, guys. Isn't that insane? Women don't even want to work with other women. Okay, well, hopefully this works.
Not prepared for in the workforce was to have older women just hate me for existing. We'll talk about older men. That's like a different line here, but older women hated me for no reason. We can talk about the narcissistic men on a different time. I'm going to tell you a story about my first full-time job. So I worked for a company that sold medical equipment, and I was in sales and marketing. And we all kind of had different bosses, and we all had, it was like kind of like I don't know, little groups. And so my boss was under this one. My boss was an older lady, maybe in her 60s, and she had worked at this company for 20 years. We all had different shifts. So like I could come in at 6 a.m. and leave at 3 p.m. And that's what I did. So I came in at 6 a.m. and then she would come in at like a normal time, 8 a.m. And every day she'd come in, she would ask only me what I was doing. So, you know, there's a whole team of like, I don't know, 15 of us. She would say, Chrissy, what have you done? Then she would log into the back end of my computer to see what I had been doing that day. And the thing is, I didn't really realize that I was being like singled out. You know, she got mad at me for taking a lot of water breaks. I was also competing in CrossFit, so like I peed a lot, you know, I get that. So I was naive and I went to HR and I was like, hey, I just don't think she's treating me fairly. She's like treating me different than everyone else. Now, this company also had someone that was on FMLA leave and also was just like finished a lawsuit from someone not getting their proper lunch breaks. So I'm assuming they were like really fearful of a lawsuit. I was freshly 21. I don't even like that didn't even come into my brain. Okay. So I just went to them because that's what I thought you were supposed to do. And I was like, hey, I just think she's like picking on me and I don't really understand it. And it got to a point where like she would call me out in front of everyone. She would talk down to me. But the thing is, like, my accounts were happy. I was hitting goals. I was doing okay. It's just that I could do the job in less time than everyone else.
Yeah. So women, this is a common problem with women. Women don't care about getting things done. They care about looking like they're getting things done. So her problem was that she could work less and get more done, and her boss would get mad at her even though she was getting her stuff done. Okay, so next we got women bosses are less... Oh, wait, hold on. Another TikTok of women talking about how female bosses are the worst.
Okay,
let me go here.
we often talk about male bosses and how they are the worst. But let me tell you, female bosses are the fucking worst. They're nasty, they're blatant, cutthroat, blatant, degrading to other females. They're the worst to deal with. And I'm not saying all of them, okay? But 90% of the time, they are mean as ish, okay? And for some reason, they're the most straightforward with their like shitty ways. And I don't know, it's because they're jealous, they feel intimidated, or they just hate females. I don't know, okay? But they always seem to be in a power trip, and they always seem to hate the idea of other females being around and trying to like better themselves. And it never makes sense to me. It never makes sense. Like, I used to work at this place in San Antonio, and I was supposed to learn from this lady who had been with the company since they started. She was about to retire. You know, she was like the mom of the company because she had been there for so long. She didn't want to fucking train me. I literally followed this woman around, and she would be like, oh no, I'm not going to teach you that. You don't need to know. That's what I'm here for. Okay, but you're going to retire, bitch. You old as fuck. You're going to retire. And she never wanted to train me. So they literally removed me from that and like guided my position into something else because she didn't want to train nobody. She was mean, she was degrading, she was cutthroat, she was fucking nasty for no reason. All I was to her was respectful.
We got 8 on the website, by the way. Can you guys hear the rain? Is that coming through? It's raining kind of hard out here.
And I was excited to learn, and I was excited for like my job.
It'd be cool to get 10. Let's get 10 on the website.
And she did not want to have none of it. She was on this power trip, that she was the only one that knew things, and she had been with the company for whatever many years. And she was mean, okay? So yeah, male bosses are horrible and extremely demanding at times. But female bosses, the wrong female bosses, whew, the worst. The worst. And I'm sure there's women out there who know the type of bosses I'm talking about that just hate you for no reason. And you're just there trying to do your damn job, and they just fucking hate your guts. And they treat you like crap.
I had a couple coaches that bullied me. Oh my gosh. Okay, we got another one. Another woman complaining about her female boss.
Learned from working for 2 very insecure women bullies. I had 2 bullies in my life, and they were both female bosses. The other side of that, I have had 2 wonderful, amazing female leaders, one of which is mine right now, and I would do anything for her. An insecure boss is going to constantly be living in fear that you are going to take their job, so they will withhold resources, training, anything from you just to keep you at this level. They do not want to see you succeed, whether it's in that company or elsewhere, and they are going to do everything in their power to keep it that way. They do not respect your time. They will participate in company gossip and likely be the ones that start it in order to break down the team and create some weird divide so that they can be your saving grace and also take the attention away from the fact that they suck. They have an inability of self-awareness or gratitude. They will micromanage to the point that you are no longer empowered to make any decision and you start to second guess your confidence.
You heard it from women, folks. Women got together and they said, let's empower each other. They said, let's fight, let's crush the patriarchy. Let's do this awesome thing. Let's build companies. And then women worked for other women and said, not like that. No, thank you. They entered a man's world and said, I'm good.